Howdy, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey there.
hey.
So we'll get started in just a moment or two. If you go ahead and add your names to the agenda, please, and any agenda items you have. Okay, let me go ahead and share this screen. This could be a short meeting. I know Tyler is out again this week. I will be out next week and the week after. The only agenda item I see currently is there are a couple of PRs that I would appreciate if we could get reviews on so that we could land support for Lambda in the Contrib repository. This first one provides the base support. And then the second one is currently marked as a draft. It builds on top of that one and adds a configuration. You can see just the changes that would be included in this in this commit here. So this provides a way to get default configuration for Lambda on X-Ray that's separate from the Lambda instrumentation itself. We wanted to do that to ensure that the Lambda could be used generally and without necessarily being tied to the AWS services. So if we get reviews on that, I would appreciate that. I would like to land that. Other news, we did make a 1.0 release in Contrib, releasing detectors and propagators that are fully stable. There's nothing we could change about their interfaces now since the implement interfaces that are in 1.0 core SDK. So that's all good. And yeah, I think that's basically the news that's happened in this week. Stephen, I see you're adding an agenda item.
Yeah, I was going to go try to dig up. There's an issue out there about the I think it's the OTel propagators environment variable. I forgot the full name of it. It acknowledges that the Go SDK doesn't support it right now, and points out that I think we would need some sort of registration facility because we've shunted those propagators off into separate packages. Probably with the intention that most programs wouldn't wind up linking in propagators that they don't intend to use. But the environment variable treats it as if there's this known universe of shorthand names for them. If you can imagine in other programming languages might be easier to sort of load in dynamically on demand. So I'm just wondering about, I understand why it's kind of hard initially, but what designs we might consider here. I was thinking of something like maybe a call that you can make that would say, basically register all the known propagators by name. Like, you would have to refer to their packages and find a string name to a factory function or something like that. But I'm not really sure how you could even offer such a registration function in a program where, when you link it without calling that, you never get that dependency. But if you do call the function or something, then you get it. Maybe something like a package that you import for side effect that handles that registration.
Yeah, so I think there's also something that needs to be done about exporters as well. And I think build kit here, I think this is where it happened.
Metrics, it's aggregators.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's probably many they're going to come up. So detect here, I think this is where they define an interface. Yeah, so they define an interface for having a map of detectors, and you can register it. And then these packages can, this detect will look at, I think, some config value or try to find the tracer. Yeah, no, that's not it. Create the exact mechanism for invoking it, but here, is the OTLP exporter registering itself in an emit method, saying, here, I am OTLP, I'm the OTLP exporter.
Okay.
So yeah, this is a similar mechanism for saying, here's a place where you can register well-known names that can then be referenced in an environment variable or a config, that something can look up and say, okay, I'm going to use that. And I think that, yeah, so for propagators, for exporters, and as Josh says, for aggregators in metrics, those could be very valuable. So I think this is the issue you were talking about in terms of propagators that Liz had put in a while back.
Right. And just to back up to that code you were looking at, isn't it the case that if the program the program has to somehow introduce a dependency on this package, let's say, like
right,
or either that, or I'm not sure if all of these exporters are just included in every program, if all that code gets linked in, or if it's something that you have to deliberately include the package.
So it will be imported for side effects, like here's imports tracing detect, which I think by default pulled in OTLP. And this one pulls in Jaeger with an import for side effects. I think we would want to have just the registry that has nothing, and allow the application author to say, here's the universe of choices I want to give the operator. I'm going to import all of them for side effects. They can choose at runtime which one to use.
Okay, so the program author is unfortunately still making a best guess, or saying, I support that environment variable, but you could not. Maybe I elect to not support the whole universe of propagators that have a name, right?
Yeah.
Right.
At some point, you need to balance either everybody gets everything so that you can use whatever variables, and it's even then, if it's extendable, I can write a program that uses an extension but doesn't import it, and then still have the same problem. Or we can say you at some point have to choose which ones that you want to be able to choose from. So in this case, it would be importing with a side effect, in a similar way that I would say the image package, the Go image. So if you want to get JPEG compression, you import the JPEG for side effects, and you still use images in the base.
And in this case, where we have a dedicated package that handles the registration, just to look at the example, say with built, or yeah, the detect for Jaeger there. If you imported, let's see, oh, maybe I'm missing the relationship.
So I think
Presumably-
the way I would do it is that I would have our exporters in there, say in OpenTelemetry exporters Jaeger, have it register itself right there, so that if you import the Jaeger exporter at all, it's registered and available for you for
Yeah,
specification
that's what I was going to ask.
by the environment variable. Same thing with all the propagators. Yeah, they do this here because they've got this is their own implementation of this, and so this kind of it provides a little bit of configuration through environment that I think we may have been missing, or they had. This is a conversion from open tracing, so they may be adjusting for some of the variables that were there before that we no longer support. But yeah, I think our exporter packages would do this, so that if you import the exporter at all, whether you use it directly to set up your default or you just import it for side effects to make it available, then it would be available for the detecting exporter, I guess you would call it, right? You would create a trace provider and register with Batcher detecting exporter, and it at runtime says, oh, okay, which one should I actually use of all of the ones that are available to me?
Would you still propose that there would be a separate package for registering the detection? If right, it sounds like no, because if you're saying if you just imported say the propagator package to actually use it, that should register it as well.
Right.
Well,
Right. So you
yeah,
wind up with a circular dependency between the packages.
The application author doesn't necessarily need to use the detecting propagator or the detecting exporter. They could hard code one in, but any of the propagator packages that we provide would register themselves with that, so that if an author does choose to use it, they can.
so
Right, so-
the registry would live inside of like propagators, and then the individual types of propagators would register with the propagators, a la image. Like image has a registry for what compressions it can use. If you were to go and look at the image, it registers in the image package that JPEG or bitmap is available.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I was just trying to discern between this technique of possibly dedicating a separate package to registering the thing as opposed to defining the thing for use.
Yeah, so I think for exporters, we may need to have a separate package for it. But for propagators, there's already the propagator package that provides a logical place for that to live.
Okay.
Wouldn't the exporters, wouldn't that registry be within the tracing package or the equivalent metrics package?
It could be an SDK trace as well. Yeah, that might be a sensible place for it.
Yeah, but I take it that given our desire to not force all of these into any one program, I was wondering whether it would be feasible to offer some sort of registration function that was like, give me all of them. But the problem is that all of them is an evolving set, right? It would have to, it would introduce dependencies on contrib. It would have to live out in contrib, right?
Right. So it would probably have to live in contrib. So if we look at like collector contrib.
So what my suggestion would would be to dedicate a specific package, probably separate from both, well, maybe in contrib, that is focused solely on the configuration of the different environments, of the different components of the SDK. So you would probably defer through that to actually do your config if you are wanting a more general purpose library where it could export whatever you want based on the environment variables. Whereas the SDK is very focused, laser focused on where pluggable, you can change everything out, but we may even have the logic for doing the registration and all that. But it doesn't have a hard-coded decision on any one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way that Collector does this, both Collector Core is very small now, but Contrib I loaded up because it's got this big list of packages that it imports. Each one of these defines a component, and then it sets up factories for these. So these would be analogous to the registrations. I think ours would probably be simpler. It would be a pile of import for side effects, right? But then in the application where you actually want to use it, then you import that package, so here it imports internal components, right? And say, yeah, it would be a import, give me all the exporters, register exporters, whatever that package ends up being named, right? And then it's able to make use of it here. And we could similarly say, detecting exporter, detect, or whatever that interface ends up being.
Yeah. And so because the way that those are collected in that components package, if your program touches that package, you've just grabbed hold of everything. But if it does not touch that package, your program could be much slimmer, right? So it's like an opt-in. It's part of the source code, but if you don't touch it, you don't get the baggage of it. It's a loaded term.
So let's see if we go look at the ADOT collector. It has the same sort of thing, right? But it's in its main package, it pulls in its own default components package. And this here is going to pull in just a much smaller list, right? Okay. So they're all still coming out of Collector Contrib, but these are the curated lists that we've pulled in. And we, since actually Collector Contrib, this is in an internal package, nothing else can pull this in. Mm-hmm. Any other collector that wants to build it up has to build its own list. But yeah, so as long as you don't pull in this package, you're not pulling in all of these. You're only pulling in the ones you explicitly list.
Got it.
For the metrics SDK to finish the 1.0, we're going to need a view implementation. And that view implementation is going to be required to look up an aggregator by name. And I think we're going to want to have a set of registered aggregators that, like, because of that view registration. But I don't think you should be required to use an SDK that has that or that loads every single type of aggregator, for example. And so we might want to have a registration so that you could use the views configuration, but keep control over which aggregators are actually linked in, I think. So all this sounds good. I'm just adding to the need for something like this.
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're working in a language that allows you to be parsimonious, and that also sort of steers you away from this kind of runtime flexibility and the interest in being able to build a smaller program.
I also kind of wonder, like, what is the difference in size if we just chose a single set of packages for each option there in the collector? Like, how big or small? How much of a difference does it make?
Well, let me see. So, like, if I'm looking at, oh no, I just deleted my normal collector build, but I think the collector itself is 70 megs. Let me see.
Because are we optimizing the wrong thing?
And contrib call is 125. So it had something like 50 megs.
Okay.
And all of those other packages.
That's a sizable difference.
Sizable difference, yeah. And actually, the core collector might be even smaller now, because we've moved so much out. Let me actually check out main.
It's encouraging to say, let's see how small we can make it. And yet, if you were to say publish a program and somebody goes to use it and they say, hey, I'm trying to use the such and such propagator, where is it? And you tell them, like, well, I saved 10K because I omitted it. Like, I don't care.
Yeah. But the counter argument to that is we're not building just an application to do this. We're building a library to be consumed, and like that I find totally reasonable in an application that needs to have that kind of flexibility. Like, I expect that to be in the collector, but I would be hard pressed to use a library that did that to me.
Yeah, I totally get it. I'm just saying it's that transition from into the sort of application developer mindset requires sort of working with, sort of working against the library's choices, you know, because you basically, you have to go shopping eagerly because the library specifically avoided doing so. Disaggregating
So-
everything like that.
So the core collector build is 23 megabytes and the contrib build is 125. So that's 100 megabytes of extra stuff that comes along to get all of those components. I don't think I have an ADOC collector build, or do I? I do. Let's see what that size is. That pulls in some of those, but not all of them. And that is 100 megs. So, you know, there are probably a few of those components that are a bulk of the size. Like my guess is that Prometheus is a big culprit there.
Prometheus and gRPC. If there's anything that uses gRPC.
OTLP uses gRPC, so that's kind of unavoidable in the core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
gRPC is nothing like the Viper dependency that the collector is using for its config.
I think that's actually gone. It's using conf now.
Ooh.
Oh, cool. Well, it used to be a really large dependency there. I hope that's been attacked.
Yeah, the collector config has been very much attacked, and it continues to be attacked and restructured.
Well, thank you for entertaining this. You know, this is like a topic to which I continually return to through different angles.
Yeah,
So,
this is a really good topic to discuss. I think it's an important one to discuss, especially as Josh mentioned. We're going to have to tackle it for metrics. I think it's really nice to have for exporters, trace exporters, and propagators, but for metrics, it sounds like it's going to be a must-have.
yeah, I
so
admit
we're
that I was
gonna have to do
little-
something there.
when I looked at the specifications supported chart for the environment variables, and I saw a few minuses in the Go column, I was initially surprised. Like I thought, wow, I thought we were sort of leaders of the pack on all this compliance business. And then I realized, well, but again, we're parsimonious. So some of those language issues make this harder to support, you know, out of the box. So I almost wish there was an asterisk next to it that explained why it's a minus rather than a plus. Like, this is not a mistake. This is not laziness. You're actually going to enjoy this once you understand the benefit.
Yeah, but I think we can get the best of both worlds there, and give as much flexibility to the application developer to choose how big they want their binary to be by choosing what packages to include, and then give them the ability to give the operator flexibility to say at runtime, which ones do I actually want to use?
So would you say, would we change that minus to a plus, checking the box, if we built the registration facility? Let's just say for propagators, the example I brought up. Say that we built the registration facility, we parse the environment variable, and we use it against the registry, but we just warn that the registry is empty or nearly empty out of the box. And then there may be examples about how you populate the registry more.
I think so. I think I would, especially with propagators, where we would include, trace context and baggage out of the box.
Yeah.
They're in the same package as propagators anyways, right? So if you've included the thing that has the registry, you've included trace context and baggage, and others can be brought in easily.
Yeah.
So I think we could say, yes, we support this environment variable. It's up to the application author how feature rich they choose to make it. But that's a design choice we've decided to make.
Okay. All right. I'm going to consider that and see how much time I have midweek for something like that. Not sure yet, but I like the idea.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for bringing that topic up, because that's definitely an important one for us to address. So Josh, a metrics update.
It's just having a hack week thing right now, and my Zoom isn't even working, so I'm like kind of not very connected to this meeting. I can see very tiny text on my phone. I continue to not have prepared for a major presentation on the state of the metrics SDK. Thank you, Anthony, for the release. I have 2 PRs pending. They're sort of, to me, like not really big deals. They're both just refactorings and cleanups of the structure. But I don't think I've really done enough sort of filing of issues to at this point in time. And I would be justified to spend some more time writing up issues for what needs to be done to clean up the SDK. You'll note that there's an SDK export metrics directory. It's completely a vestige of an ancient layout of the package. And so I have in mind cleaning that up. So one of the PRs is just a proposed move to start that work. And then the other is continuing on a path that I discussed previously. It's continue to assume that we're going to keep this SDK. It just needs kind of minor reshuffling and a little bit more development, which I will continue to plan a presentation on. And then the API, again, is an open question. Do we want to keep it there? Do we want to design something completely new? But even assuming that we keep the SDK, there's this package that we've created and started creating, moving stuff into called SDK API. I have a pending PR to move everything else into the SDK API. And if you do that, what's nice is you can pull up Godoc with the current API and see all that's there. There's nothing out like superfluous at that point. And you can see it is a big API, and you can see why we've talked about or considered updating or changing it or redesigning it. So I'm not like, there's no pressure for me as far as time, but if we get this merged, you can then begin to see what the API looks like. The other PR, if you get that merged, you can begin to start, the SDK package structure begins to make more sense, but that sort of, they're 2 separate threads. Neither of them are major. So if you feel like minor progress, these are worth approving, in my opinion. But I do owe you all more of a kind of major presentation, and I keep not having time to get ready for that.
And I think I've looked through both of these before. They're all very much just, here's a lot of things that get renamed. So should be pretty straightforward to review. I do like the change of export kind selector to temporality selector. That seems to make more sense to me.
Yeah, I've been working in the code. I actually found a couple issues just in the last 24 hours as a result of my hack week that are related to the SDK not quite meeting my needs. And I think they would be uncovered as soon as you ran into the view and tried to implement the view mechanism as well. That's stuff that I plan on filing issues about because they're not, because we're hacking, that's why.
Cool, well, happy hacking.
Thank you.
I love the idea of a hack week. Last couple of jobs, well, not last job before, we would do hackathons at least once a year. But they would be like 2 days.
These are, I said hack week, it's actually a 3-day event. We're in day 2 right now. And I'm actually working on Lightstep's code, which means I actually tried wiring up the OTel Go SDK to get Lightstep satellites reporting OTel metrics in order to tear out some very old code that's actually reporting dog stats.
Nice.
My company does not want me to mention that ever again.
Dog stats or
Dog stats D going to who knows where that goes.
Just a quick question. Did you have a bird on your head?
I did. There's a parakeet living in the house. Here it comes.
is it living in your house or are you living in its house?
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I work from home now, and everyone's away during the day. I let the bird out, except when I'm eating because it gets on my nerves, or when it tries to eat my face.
I've unfortunately had that experience with slightly larger birds. No fun.
Yeah,
A blue front Amazon that took a good chunk out of my face one time.
This is, we got this as a pandemic pet about a year ago. So I don't know. I like her. This is named, her name is Nibble. Yeah.
I like that phrase, pandemic pet, although it suggests that the relationship could come to an end.
It
soon
sort
enough.
of does, right? I've been the one most involved with the bird for the last, 6 months. Once the initial wore off, it was me and the bird during my working hours.
Cool. Okay. If there is nothing else to discuss, I think I'll take a half hour back.
Fair enough.
Thanks, everyone.
This looks good. Thanks
Yep.
for the discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was a good discussion. Thank you.
I'll see you next week. Bye.